Why do people try to act like physical attraction does not matter? I refuse to date a woman to whom I am not physically attracted. I work hard in the gym to improve my appearance, and I need to feel intense physical attraction. Personality still matters, but I need physical attraction first to even consider personality. Love works best when you have both physical attraction and personality. Why do people think it is more noble to settle for a larger woman and then end up with a lack of intimacy? You cannot be intimate with a personality alone. I have friends with low self-esteem settling for toxic partners, and they are all depressed because they feel no attraction to their partner. Story 1. Looks draw me in. Personality makes me stay. I suppose each person has different viewpoints, but this is how I have always seen it. If you want to pick someone attractive to marry, it seems superficial. Physical attraction does not matter when you are over 50, and personality is all you will have. Story 2. This conversation always reminds me of the trope where a girl says, "Cindy is so beautiful," when Cindy is objectively not beautiful. In response, the boyfriend says, "Yeah, she looks just like you." And suddenly the girl is noticeably upset. Apparently, her feelings about Cindy's beauty have vanished. Story 3. There is a lot of pressure to act this way, and honestly, I remember feeling this pressure before. But one day, someone said, "If I have to look at them, I want to like looking at them," and it clicked for me. Just an aside, some plus-size women are very attractive, at least to some people out there. Basically, what I have noticed in life and seeing couples is that everyone has a type, and that type is different for each individual. Certainly, the whole package, including personality, matters a lot. So, yes, being plus-size and toxic, maybe being plus-size does not matter so much, but you can discover toxicity later, even if you are physically attracted to someone. Story 4. I agree completely. The personality should be the most important factor when choosing a partner, but if there is no physical attraction, then what is the point? I do not find larger women appealing. There is no hate towards them at all. It just does not do anything for me. Everything else about them could be perfect, but that alone would make me walk away. The same applies if her body is perfect but her personality is lacking. In that case, I would also walk away because then it is just about physical intimacy. I know I am single and perhaps should not say much about it, but that is part of the reason I am single. I do not feel attraction toward those around me. I would rather be alone than suffer. Story 5. It looks incredibly bad to say this, and it looks incredibly good to say the opposite. People of both genders place more weight on looks than they report. This is called stated versus revealed preferences and is something that has been studied in sociology. Women tend to do this more and to a greater degree than men, but men definitely do the same. Story 6. At least for me, I find that physical attraction can be influenced greatly by a good personality. I have been with many people whom I initially would not have said I was attracted to, but the connection was so strong that I could not keep my hands off them. Story 7. Social pressure makes people lie even to themselves. When you are looking for someone, the first thing you see is the face and body. Then you decide if you want to find out more about them, not the other way around. Social pressure wants you to see the person beneath all that fat. Yes, she might be a wonderful person who likes what you like and thinks the way you do. But for me, being true to myself means I have to see something I like. Story 8. I completely understand, and I am a woman. Think about how difficult life was for women who had arranged marriages and had to marry unattractive older men. Story 9. I can only speak for myself. Up until I was about 25, looks accounted for 85% and everything else made up 15%. Since then, looks account for about 30% and values, morals, and personality make up 70%. Also, there are two types of attractiveness. The first is undeniably attractive in general. Not many people fit into this category. The second type is where attractiveness is influenced by the flaws and shortcomings a person sees in themselves and others. For example, an obese man might find his obese wife attractive, but in reality, it is more his own flaws and shortcomings that lead him to define what is attractive. Story 10. At the end, it is your preference and not someone else's. Some might want an intimate connection. It is the person's choice. Others should also understand your preference. Story 11. Attraction is required to get in the door, but personality determines how long you will stay there. Attraction matters because if you just like someone personally, they can be a friend, colleague, or family member. My wife's appearance looked great in a white dress when I first laid eyes on her. The fact that she is the best thing that has happened to me was just a bonus, and we have been together 7 years. To think you will date someone because they have a nice personality without physical attraction, to me anyway, is silly. Story 12. Simply put, many people want others to feel good, so they try to say it is shallow to care about looks. This often results in people being with others they are barely attracted to because they do not want to seem like a bad person. Now, they are effectively stuck in a relationship with someone they do not enjoy looking at. I say forget that. Be shallow. If you do not like looking at the person you are dating or in a relationship with, it will show in some way, shape, or form, and they will feel bad anyway in the end. It is not your responsibility to make someone else feel good about themselves or how they look, especially not at the expense of your own personal morals and values. Story 13. I would never date someone I am not physically attracted to. I also believe men should give themselves time for attraction to grow. There's always a second date rule. When I met my last girlfriend, she was cute, and there was definitely a level of attraction. However, I was debating whether to see her again because it was long distance. Attraction grew once I got to know her better and spent more time with her. She ended up being the most beautiful woman I have known, and I have never felt as attracted to anyone as I did to her. Story 14. I see people talk about this on Reddit all the time. I have yet to meet someone who actually says looks do not matter. Story 15. Yes, both are definitely important. If you are attractive but have a horrible personality, I am not interested. But if you have a great personality and the looks are not there, I am not interested either. I have experienced both and was not happy. Both are important. Story 16. There is a word for people whose personality you are fond of but not attracted to: friends. I do not think most people need to be impressed aesthetically. They just need someone to meet a minimum threshold of what they find physically attractive. Story 17. I cannot speak for everyone, but for myself, a woman becomes more attractive the more I get to know and like her. I know plenty of women who I would not have turned my head for when I first met them, but I think they are attractive now that I have gotten to know them. Also, looks fade over time. She may be attractive now, but she probably will not be attractive until death do you part. What are you going to do if she develops a health condition or ages more quickly than expected? If she does not look as good 10 years later, but she is a good wife, most people will not leave. But if she is attractive and unpleasant, most people will not even make it 10 years. While I would not say that physical attraction does not matter, because if you can find nothing attractive about a person after you get to know them, then it is not going to work. I do think physical attraction, especially immediate physical attraction before you know someone, is overrated. Story 18. For some, it just is not as important. I have grown very attracted to women that I was not into at first. Pictures also never do anyone justice. Physical attractiveness is almost like a fetish. It is something that will grab you for a while but eventually loses its luster. No one has ever stayed with a partner they hated simply because they were attractive. Story 19. I do not act like it is not important. I say that looking good is not the most important aspect of physical attraction. I do not want to sleep with a model. I want to sleep with a woman I like. Story 20. Many people say things they wish were true rather than what they actually know to be true. They say it does not matter because they do not like that it matters. Story 21. Physical attraction matters to everyone, but there are two types of people. 1. Those who admit it. 2. Those who do not. Story 22. I don't think anyone is claiming that you need to date people you're not attracted to, but it seems like the only thing you're not attracted to is plus-size women, which I don't quite understand. Plus-size women are not monolithic whatsoever. It's also important to keep in mind that weight fluctuations can happen for many reasons. You can enter into a relationship with someone who gains weight due to situational depression related to something like the death of a close relative, or someone who gets sick and gains weight from medication, inability to be active, and so on. If this is really such a deal breaker for you, you should make that clear from the very beginning because bodies change all the time. For all you know, you could end up in one of those situations and become the one who gains weight. You could also end up in a situation where you can't be as physically intimate or affectionate as you'd like. And I'm not sure what would happen for you at that point. For example, recovery from surgery in which you're unable to do much. The personality aspect really matters in situations like that because you'd want to be around someone you actually like. At the end of the day, to each their own, but it also sounds like you've maybe gotten some pushback about not being into plus-size women. I'm sensing some frustration, but I'm admittedly not great at discerning things like that. Story 23. Only people on Reddit think like this. Nobody in real life expects anyone to date someone they don't find attractive. Physical attraction is about 80% of the effort to start a relationship. What one person finds attractive is subjective. However, some people in real life will tell you about despicable, irresponsible individuals they continue to date for years because they were attractive or had great chemistry. Story 24. When you date enough people, you start to see how much more there is to attractiveness than purely physical appearance. Attractive people can disappoint you. Some people you thought were physically unattractive turn out to be incredibly attractive in personality, hobbies, and demeanor. Some physically attractive people neglect themselves. Some physically unattractive people improve significantly. You get the point. Physical attractiveness is only one characteristic, and it can change. As for you, you can feel entitled to a perfect partner all you want, but if your personality is unpleasant, you will have a harder time connecting with others. Story 25. It is simply the backlash against people overly focusing on physical attraction and neglecting other important aspects for a long-term relationship, such as emotional maturity and worldview compatibility. Story 26. I call this trend righteous self-congratulation. People are eager to appear politically correct and empowering, so they say feel-good self-help phrases without actually practicing them. They delude themselves into believing they do not expect special criteria or preferences from others, when in fact they do. This helps them cope by convincing themselves they are not hypocrites, although they most likely are. Story 27. I am a fairly attractive woman who has been with a man whom most would consider unattractive. He was anorexic, balding, had red hair, misaligned teeth, and not the most flattering facial features either. Before I was with him, I definitely went for looks first. I ended up in an abusive relationship at one point as a result. The reason I was attracted to the man with red hair was because of his voice and our chemistry. I got to know him through a game we played, so I didn't actually see his face until after I became intrigued by him. Our chemistry was intense from the very start. I have never experienced anything like it before or since. It was like heroin. I remember when I saw a picture of him for the first time, I was put off. But by then I was so addicted to him that I decided to accept it. Long story short, we agreed that we were each other's love of life. We just didn't make it because of very unfair life circumstances. I have dated other conventionally attractive men since, but I have never felt more attracted to anyone but him. Looks become attractive because you adore the person so much that everything about them becomes lovable. So I might be the odd one out, but ever since I have valued personality and chemistry first, looks second. Of course, looks still play a role, but I will always feel more attracted to the man who makes me laugh even when I feel ugly than to some model-looking man with a flavorless personality. Story 28. This frustrates me. Never in my life have I met someone to whom I had no physical attraction who then became attractive to me just because of personality. I need both. I think that almost everyone does. But people falsely claim that they do not because people are misguided. Story 29. You are not simply attracted or not attracted to somebody. Attraction is a mix of physical features, which can vary widely, and emotional connection, which makes someone you love more attractive. Someone can be rated 4 out of 10 physically, but your love for them as a person can raise that to 7 out of 10. Likewise, you may be attracted to someone rated 8 out of 10, and your love might increase that to 10 out of 10. People also have different standards for what makes someone physically attractive. Both a 7 and a 10 in attraction are quite good. Story 30. I was once downvoted for saying it is delusional to believe that appearance does not matter. While I am not glad about that, let's be realistic. Some people may be completely indifferent to looks, but definitely not the majority. Story 31. Two things. Many people try to maintain an optimistic view of reality, even when that is not necessarily accurate. Phrases like, "it gets better," "time heals all wounds," "it's what's on the inside that counts," and "if you work hard, you will succeed" are common. Sometimes these are true, but often they are not, even though such phrases are frequently accepted as absolute truth. On the other hand, there are many average-looking or unattractive people in relationships, so appearance does not always matter that much. Walk down any public street, and you are likely to see at least one couple where neither person is particularly attractive visually. Story 32. It is part of the equation, but that only lasts for so long. There are many great-looking people who cannot carry on a simple, intelligent conversation. Story 33. The thing is, it does matter a little bit, but personality is much more important. I can find people very attractive, but if their personality is terrible, then they are the ugliest person I have ever seen. Story 34. Humans will always reject and lie about things they are guilty of. I have given people a warehouse-sized door to leave a conversation. The catch was they had to admit they were wrong. They would double down on the lie every time, never taking the easy way out when it meant admitting fault. People will never admit physical attraction means anything because it shows they are not a great person. Instead, they will lie and give you every excuse about how you missed all the signs, maybe he or she was shy, or offer other very improbable reasons, rather than say you are actually not attractive, which life has shown by how everyone has treated you. Story 35. I've got to say, I tried the deep route first. The biggest problem was me. The next biggest problem was her self-esteem. I couldn't be it for her. But I also couldn't enjoy or connect with her if she couldn't hold a positive image of herself. Imagine having a favorite painting and every day the painter assures you it's worthless. After that, I focused heavily on looks. Surely more attractive people would have better self-image. That's not the case. The most attractive woman I was with couldn't stop trying to take selfies and find an angle that didn't make her look fat on our dates. Yes, she was tall and strong, but it looked great on her. The most interesting case was someone I felt a connection with on the very first meeting. She could arouse me by talking about nothing at all on the phone. Decently attractive, very supportive, and lots of fun. If circumstances were different, I might pursue her further. I still hope to find that ultimate someone, but chances are someone decently attractive will take my heart because of who she is long before I find that rare exception. In summary, superficial happiness matters as a prerequisite. If the shallow parts of you can't be happy, it will be a thorn in your side. After that, there are much more important things that fill out a relationship. Story 36. Truth is, look at the people who are speaking to you, how they look, and what kind of place they are living in so that you know the answer. In my area, some people are afraid of beautiful girls, thinking they will definitely cheat on you for another handsome or rich person. But the truth is, many people are even afraid to try. Story 37. Obviously, I do not want to sleep with someone I think is physically disgusting, but most people are attractive if they keep clean. Personality, mannerisms, and smell all have much more to do with whether I want to have sex with someone. Story 38. 8 billion people, my friend, 350 million in the United States alone. People are going to think everything that is possible to think. You would be hard-pressed to convince me it is a good use of time to sway others' opinions. Story 39. Because physical attraction will only get you so far. Your looks will fade. It is inevitable, and physical attraction can be lost or change at any time. Some people want something more tangible and stable than that. I never understood it as people pretending that looks do not matter. It is more like they are looking further down the road. Story 40. It really boils down to something known as chemistry. If you do not experience it with the person you are initially attracted to, the relationship will go nowhere. As for initial attraction, everyone has their preference. Although the vast majority of people appear to follow certain rules of attraction, there are enough eccentrics to please most nonconformists. People who do not realize this are generally young, immature, and lacking age-related wisdom. Story 41. I have friends with low self-esteem settling for toxic partners, and they are all depressed because they feel no attraction to their partner. I went through a phase where I had no self-worth. I stayed with my partner for 9 years and slowly improved myself. When we split, I took a few months off from dating. Now, my current partner is everything I have ever wished for in a girlfriend, and I am glad I did not settle this time. Never date someone simply because you are lonely, or you will live to regret it. Story 42. People like to act like they are better than others. That is the only reason. Even the most dedicated advocate of personality will choose looks over personality. The first thing you notice is looks, not personality. It is just that, after that, the other qualities should be taken into account too. Story 43. Women will tell you that looks do not matter. They are lying. Looking good and being fit helps with initial attraction. Value, personality, and competence sustain relationships. Looking like a slob definitely hurts you. Dressing clean and neat, keeping yourself groomed, is neutral to positive. Dressing a notch up, being fit, and being exceptionally well-groomed is a big positive. However, superficial attracts superficial, so you have to be careful. Story 44, because it is socially unacceptable to say it, plain and simple. Men do not say it because society will label them dirty perverts, and women do not say it for reasons that are less clear. But that is the baseline issue. Physical attraction does, has, and always will matter. That is the core issue of the friend zone. I like you, but I cannot ever see myself having sex with you. Story 45. The only people who say this are either unattractive or attractive and like to think it does not matter to them because they do not know what it is like to have limited options. Story 46. No, I understand. You need to date who you are attracted to. Sometimes attraction can develop unexpectedly. Even if you are not initially attracted to someone, working closely with them allows you to see their personality and vitality, which can lead to attraction towards someone you might not have been attracted to before. I do have a question, though. Why do you focus on plus-size women? Is that the only criterion you have for someone who might not have an attractive face but has a great body? And if someone has an attractive face but is overweight, are you automatically disinterested? No judgment, just curious. Story 47. Because beauty and youth fade dramatically and quickly over time, personality, morals, and kindness do not. The grass is not always greener on the other side. Many average-looking women are far better than the so-called beautiful ones. I do not know. Maybe I am mistaken, but we should not rate people's worth based on appearance. Instead, we should look inward at the human being. Just a suggestion. Story 48. Most normal take ever. Do not date people you are not attracted to. Work on yourself until people you are attracted to are interested in you. Sounds like you have done that. People try hard to avoid being labeled shallow online. Maybe they want to believe that they do not have to better themselves to find a quality partner. Story 49. It mostly comes down to virtue signaling and cognitive dissonance from most people who go around proclaiming that looks are not that important. Physical attraction is by far the most important factor for most people when it comes to dating. It is what gets you in the door. Personality, charisma, status, money, and other qualities can help you, but at the end of the day, looks are the #1 priority for most. You can have the most charming personality in the world, but if there is no physical attraction, you will only be seen platonically more often than not. Story 50. Could it be generational? My maternal grandmother was literally a small-time model, and my grandfather was short, a broke college student, and objectively not good-looking. She still married him. So maybe it is older people telling us the values they grew up with, and then not really accepting that those values have changed. I cannot see any of my friends saying a good personality is all that counts. Story 51. Rational people do not say that. Rational people acknowledge both the physical and personality matters. Only irrational people think otherwise. Story 52. You can't have sex with a personality. This was my mantra in my teens and 20s. After having a lot of hollow, meaningless sex with people, I realized that it does matter if you want a deeper, more meaningful connection. It can also enhance the bedroom experience if you truly care about someone in a profound way, rather than just seeing everyone as a quick one-night stand. This does not necessarily mean settling for less, lowering your expectations drastically, or overlooking physical appearance. It means being more open to meeting people in an intellectual way or through life experience. Story 53. Everyone is equal and you are not supposed to judge. I always say, of course it matters, but not everyone views everyone the same. Just because the majority thinks someone is or is not attractive does not affect whether I think they are attractive. You definitely have to have some level of attraction. Story 54. I refuse to date a woman that I am not physically attracted to. I am right there with you. I have been with a variety of good-looking, average, and below-average girls, but only ever pursued something serious with girls I found attractive. I think modern dating has skewed roles so much that people almost do not know how to healthfully compromise in a relationship. In my opinion, you do not drop your tastes, preferences, and standards to the point where you are in an unhealthy relationship. Compromise is important, but not to that degree. Love works best when you have both physical attraction and personality. I could not have worded it any better. Both parties do not have to be equally 6s or 8s, but there is a saying about how men typically date down and women typically date up. I think modern dating and internet services like Instagram and Tinder have skewed this trend in ways no one could have predicted. Story 55. I don't think people are saying physical attraction does not matter. I think they are just trying to help people realize that it is a bad idea to hyperfixate on looks because they fade. However, someone you enjoy being around is someone you will definitely never get tired of. Story 56. As you age, looks do not matter. If you focus on looks, you may marry or date someone who is not good for you. I dated 2 women who were not conventionally attractive, and they were the best. Story 57. Why do people try to act like physical attraction does not matter? Some people may not be pretending. To them, physical attraction may not matter. You do you. Chase those people you are attracted to. Just be kind to others. They did not do anything wrong. As for your friends who choose partners others consider difficult, it seems either they like those with a fuller figure, or they prefer a dominant personality to guide them. Neither is quite my preference, but I am not going to judge. Story 58. How did you get the idea that physical attraction does not matter? It always matters, but it is not everything. A while ago, I found out that a woman who was basically a 10 physically, she was a competitive swimmer, had a crush on me. That was an ego boost, but I was sad to realize that even though I was single, it would never have worked out. She was nice, but let us just say that she was far from the intellectual type. We had nothing in common when it came to ideas, so I could not picture my life with her. Around the same time, I met a different woman who was not as beautiful. I would rate her as an 8, maybe 7. However, it took a lot of effort on my part not to hopelessly fall in love with her. She had an awesome personality. She lit up any room she entered as if she was a ray of sunshine. She was equal parts gutsy and kind, and I could easily picture growing old with her if the circumstances were different. Story 59. I met a man once who was attracted to women with fuller figures. It is all about perception. No one will ever be considered the most attractive in the world. There are trends just like in fashion. Story 60. Most of the people here are posting nonsense because they think they will get upvotes. If you are so concerned about someone who is overweight getting treated badly, then address that issue yourself. How are most of you single, yet there are many people with nice personalities out there? It's almost as if you do not take your own advice. Personalities last longer. Do they? There are many stories where people had girlfriends, boyfriends, or fiancés whose personalities changed once they became monogamous. Are you telling me that the divorce rate is what it is, and everyone who got divorced knew their partner would behave like that all along? Laugh out loud. At the end of the day, everyone is responsible for creating their own list of filters to remove people from their dating pool. I would never date an obese woman, regardless of how funny she is. I would never date someone who is extremely thin either, or someone with red hair, or someone with a condition that would make my life a series of endless trips to the hospital. Do not like it? You date them. Story 61. Because many people are average or below average, the math works out. They settle out of necessity, so they convince themselves and others that appearance does not matter. But of course it does. Story 62. Now that I am older, better educated, and less easily entertained, I have started to seek partners who read, so conversations stay varied without me carrying the full burden. A woman with unusual library books sticking out of her bag has become far more attractive than a gym enthusiast with a physique that matches my own. Of course, to a degree, I also enjoy sharing outdoor experiences with my partner. Don't get me wrong, a gym enthusiast has always been fun for a fling, but for a relationship, a silent living room is scarier than a dead bedroom, as the dead air in the living room seeps into the bedroom just like the sparks of a good argument. Over time, this is how what I find physically attractive has shifted. In short, physical attraction has a lot to do with physical indicators of being a suitable partner. It is the reason people grow apart and why a bedroom dies. Story 63. Do they? I mostly ignore those people, and I figured they are a rarity. I figured for the most part they were trying to encourage people to tap into their more humane side for human relationships, but I never thought anyone was trying to get me to go against my instincts in biology. Story 64. Yes, true. No one is willingly going to have sexual intercourse with someone who looks like Beetlejuice. The same way women want a man to be over 6 feet tall is the same way men may want a woman who is a size 6. Physical attraction will always be the foundation. Story 65. For many people, including myself, physical attraction is more complex than simply looking at someone and feeling attracted or not immediately. Physical attraction matters, but it changes over time and can be triggered by specific factors. As others have mentioned, when you grow old with someone, both of your bodies will change. Additionally, many men are attracted to larger women. Story 66. Did your friends tell you that they are depressed and unattracted? Or is it an assumption? Sometimes I rarely emphasize physical attraction in the context of advice because it is obviously an important factor. It is like if someone is complaining about getting bad sleep, I'm not going to start out by saying, "Have you considered turning off lights?" Because I respect their autonomy enough to solve that part of the equation. Outside the context of advice, I do not think I see this come up in my circles. Story 67. Physical attraction is quite literally different for everyone. What I find extremely attractive, some would say ew, gross, and vice versa. From my own perspective, a woman's personality can greatly elevate how I see her physical attractiveness. In the past, I dated women some of my friends thought were not as attractive as others I had dated, but to me, they were much more attractive because they were really nice people and made me feel good to be around them. Then I think of my wife. I have been with her for over 25 years, and honestly, I have no idea how she looks to others, nor do I care because to me, she is incredibly attractive. Story 68. The problem is not that physical attraction does not matter. The problem is that relationships cannot function on the premise that physical qualities are all that matter. Time passes, people change. Attraction and desire must encompass the person as a whole for the relationship to survive. Otherwise, intimacy dies when someone gains weight, has an accident, or when old age arrives. I am not saying that physical attraction does not matter. I am just saying it has to be a flexible concept that is allowed to change along with the person. It is interesting how you mention men being with toxic big girls, when I have friends who entered into relationships with toxic women who were thin and attractive and treated them poorly. However, they kept the relationship going because the woman was so attractive, and that was what mattered most to them. In each case, the relationship ended badly. Story 69. Physical appearance does matter to a certain extent, but for some people it is not a high priority. I have been in a serious relationship with someone I did not find physically attractive. Not to say they were unattractive, but for me, the emotional connection and personality were so amazing that I did not care about physical appearance. I do not think love depends on physical attraction, but it definitely helps. Also, after being in a relationship with a very attractive person, physical attraction often diminishes over time. Celebrities sometimes cheat on their beautiful spouses with partners who are less conventionally attractive. So, in the end, physical attraction does not matter as much. If you value health and fitness, obviously you would not date someone who is obese. However, I would be willing to date someone who is physically fit even if their face is not very attractive. Story 70. People want to hold on to their idea of what love is. That changes as you get older. The idealistic love depicted in romance novels and movies is not real love and is superficial. The same can be said about physical attraction, but everyone is into different things in that regard. Some men in their 20s really like older women. Story 71. Some individuals may engage in extreme behaviors to achieve their goals. Do you think these people would hesitate to take risks if it meant obtaining what they want? Story 72. I think it is unwise to care about what others seek in a partner, as long as they are willing to accept being alone rather than staying with someone who does not meet their standards. There are two valid reasons for holding this view. First, everyone tends to become less attractive to some extent as they age, so it is not realistic to expect beauty to last forever. However, people can always improve their appearance with what they have. It would be unfair to lead someone on when they are at their most attractive and then leave them when it becomes harder for them to find a partner. Second, this view applies to people who expect more from a partner than they are willing to give. Story 73. 1. Vulnerability in sharing is appreciated. People are very lucky or naive to have lives where they can get passionate about particulars like, no matter how great a person's principles or fit and healthy a person is, if they are bigger than you, it's no. It is absolutely correct to want the options you personally consider the best. We should all strive to have the best options and opportunities for ourselves and achieve those ends. The critique on experience and luck. You speak as if you too will be young, perfect, and able forever. When the time comes where an aspect of your advantage runs out, you will have to renegotiate your standards. Even animals in the wild deal with this. Gaining or losing resources and abilities makes you recalculate. Being overweight is a huge liability, but so is being young, unintelligent, unkind, lacking principles, or lacking creativity. Chances are you have something equally lacking and always will. This applies to all of us. Everything has a cost. One person's burden is another's benefit. She might be overweight. You might be unfocused. Both are problematic but changeable. That is why many are critical of you for boldly claiming that you do not want big girls. It makes you sound like a child who will not eat unless it is a sandwich with all fresh ingredients and the crust cut off the bread. It is realistic if you or your caregivers are making it for yourself this way all the time. It is unrealistic to demand other people meet your preferences. Go hug your mom. You have an enchanted life, is how it comes across. You are probably a good person, so that is why there is criticism. This is the main reason tactful picky eaters keep their comments to themselves. You both do and do not know who you will be 5 years from now. Story 74. Nowadays, anyone can become beautiful. If you have a unibrow, you can go to a salon and get your brows done. If you have any issues with your face, you can visit a cosmetic clinic for fillers or even surgery. However, you cannot buy inner qualities like honesty, loyalty, or understanding, and those are exactly what a relationship truly needs. People who are aware of this fact often look for inner beauty rather than just physical attraction. While physical attraction is usually what catches the eye at first sight, it is only temporary. It becomes lasting only if the person is genuinely drawn to the other's inner qualities. Story 75. People wrongly assume that physical attraction means society's standard of conventionally attractive, which it does not. The original poster sounds like someone who spends a lot of time at the gym and wants a partner who takes care of their body, and that is fine. I find thicker girls more attractive, but they still need to have a shape and ideally a very pretty face. These are personal preferences and are fine to have. No one should settle for someone they do not find attractive unless that is what they want. There is no time limit on finding a relationship, and people who settle for the inappropriate partner just perpetuate the notion that attraction does not matter. Attraction does matter. Marry someone you want to be with physically for life. The rest will figure itself out. Story 76. Mostly virtue signaling. I see it on this subreddit all the time. Looks don't matter to me. Her personality is what matters. Yeah, right. I'm sure you are just jumping at the opportunity to date a hideous 600-pound woman because she has a nice personality. Looks absolutely matter, and there is nothing wrong with that. Story 77. Kindness overrides nearly everything. If you do not know that, it is because no one has been kind enough to you at a low enough point. Story 78. There are many people in this world who do not experience physical attraction. Asexuality, demisexuality, and sapiosexuality are real terms that accurately describe some people's experiences. Likewise, aromanticism, which is not experiencing emotional attraction, is also a valid way to describe some people's experiences. I am a very physical person and could never be intimate with someone I did not know well or find physically attractive. However, I have met people I did not initially find physically attractive but grew to feel attracted to based on their personality. You are correct that physical attraction is important, and I enjoy physical intimacy as much as anyone. However, for some people, physical intimacy matters less or not at all compared to connecting emotionally on a level that requires mutual attraction. If you are aromantic, that is perfectly valid. However, insisting that everyone else is wrong is closed-minded. Story 79. Physical parts can be changed all the time, but they cannot change a genuine soul. Kindness and laughter go further. Story 80. I think people downplay physical attraction because they are trying to avoid shallow criticism or because they genuinely believe it is not the most important factor in a relationship. Story 81. They are trying to act like they are better than that for whatever reason. Looks and attraction have always been the top priority and will always continue to be. Story 82. Physical attraction does matter, but it should not be the sole reason for dating. Additionally, there are many preferences regarding physical appearance, so there is almost certainly someone for everyone. Story 83. I don't think most people would say it doesn't matter. Rather, it's not the only thing that matters. If you connect with someone on a deep emotional level, the level of attraction doesn't always matter as much. As people get older, they usually become subjectively less attractive, so you are not settling by staying with the person you married. You are more in love with them because of a deeper connection, and physical attractiveness becomes less important or more realistic as it becomes intertwined with your emotional connection, making you somehow more attracted to them. Story 84. For me, it still matters, but all the women I keep talking to are either boring or play too many games. Being older now, personality counts more than looks because I just want someone to talk to, not just to have sex with. Even then, I lowered my standards. When you get older, you care more about the connection than the looks. But it is the looks that draw you in. Story 85. Who pretends that physical attraction does not matter? That being said, there is a point where looks matter less. I need a certain baseline level of attraction to be interested in dating someone, but beyond that, other factors matter more. If she is very good looking, that is a great bonus, but I would rather date a solid 6 who is otherwise a great match than a 9 out of 10 who is generally a mediocre partner. I could not enter a relationship with someone I see as a 3 or a 4. The baseline attraction I mentioned previously just is not there. Why do people think it is more noble to settle for a bigger person and then end up having a dead bedroom? I do think that sometimes people choose partners they are less attracted to, but new relationship energy fuels their early sex life and makes their partner look better to them. After a while, new relationship energy wears off, but many people are surprisingly unwilling or weak about ending relationships that are no longer working, and they stay together because of inertia. You also have to remember that for some people there are certain physical features that matter more than anything else, and those can make a person look more attractive to them than to others. For example, I have a friend who really likes large breasts. Not just in a sexual way. He thinks there is something overwhelmingly beautiful about a bust woman. He is a good-looking and fit man, but he has dated women who are less attractive overall or are somewhat plump as long as they have really large breasts. To him, that makes them gorgeous. Story 86. I think for an instant attraction scenario, physical attraction often matters. However, for the slow rising tide of attraction to someone as a person, as you get to know them, looks do not reduce the attraction. Story 87. Big girls do not necessarily mean dead bedrooms. Big girls are not all toxic. You do not have to be attracted to big girls, but there is no reason to label them as prude and toxic. Story 88. When you look good and can attract beautiful women, you realize at some point that it is not all about that and you grow to just like cool ladies. Of course, there is a threshold where it becomes unpleasant. However, some less attractive ladies end up being more attractive than an objectively more attractive one because of who they are. It happens. Story 89. because they want to appear virtuous and not shallow or superficial. Looks absolutely do matter. They are not the most important thing, but they are important. You can fall for someone despite not being physically attracted to them. You could find yourself sexually attracted to someone due to emotional bonds. Someone can go from ugly to pretty to you if you become close enough. But that is the exception, not the rule, and it does not happen nearly as often as people claim. That rare occurrence is another reason why many say that looks do not matter. Story 90. Looks are subjective and ever-changing. You should look for overall potential rather than initial appearance. Story 91. By the time I got married, physical appearance was so far down on my list of important qualities that it was essentially irrelevant. Story 92. Physical attraction definitely matters. The same way you would not eat a meal if you do not enjoy the ingredients, you would not and should not spend time with someone if you are not attracted to them in every sense of the word. I am a woman and physical attraction matters for me as well, but it is not the end all and be all. It is one of many little things that adds up to a greater sum. Sometimes men can be vilified more than women for having the same belief. Yes, to be fair, there are times when people from either gender are just shallow about it, and that should not be respected. But when someone is honest about what attracts them to a person, it is fair. It makes me think of what Marilyn Monroe said in Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. The material things that attract you to a person can be helpful, but they should not be the only reason you are attracted to a person. Story 93. You do know there are men who find plus-size women attractive, right? Like a lot of them. Your friend's problem is not that he settled for a plus-size woman. His problem is that he is willing to subject himself to a toxic relationship. Story 94. Do not listen to social media. People in real life still prefer someone who has a similar level of attractiveness to themselves. Story 95. What are you talking about? Do whatever you want. Believe it or not, there are a wide range of thoughts and opinions based on different lived experiences and value systems. You are free to follow yours. There is no right or wrong here. Story 96. Generally, when I say that, I mean that the arbitrary rules of physical attraction do not matter. I see many opinions about only certain body types being attractive and others not. For example, you mentioned not being into big girls, which is fine. I actually have a thing for bigger girls. Similarly, some girls do not like short guys, while others do not mind. The point is that there are different people with different preferences, so it is impossible that nobody would find a certain person physically attractive. Some body types and physiques will have more admirers than others, but everyone has their preferences, and you will likely come across someone who thinks you are their type. Beyond the basics like hygiene, grooming, and dressing well, looks are not important in the sense that you will eventually meet someone who likes what you have. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.